Good evening. This is a regular scheduled meeting of the Kettering City Council. Today's date is January 24th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your head. Dear Lord, thank you for your abundant blessings and surrounding us with stewardship and a supportive community in Kettering. We thank you for the ability to engage in useful work and for the honor of bearing these important responsibilities. We are grateful for your boundless love for all of us. Please continue to give us the strength and compassion with which to serve, and grant us the wisdom to make appropriate decisions. Help us remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Guide this council so that we may work in harmony while serving our citizens with integrity and purpose. Allow us to fulfill the responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents. I'd like to recognize our Miami Valley Communication Council TV operator, Mike Saproni. Mike, thanks for your assistance as usual. Mr. Duke has an excused absence this evening. At this point, I would like to call on Mr. Klepaz for a motion to amend the agenda.
Thank you, Your Honor. At last night's Sister City meeting, a discussion was held concerning the planned agenda resolution item number 12. In the last week, Al Fullenkamp, who's the chair of the Kettering Sister City Committee, has been in contact with Kelly Watts. She's the mayor of Kettering, England Town Council. She requested that we hold off on this resolution until she had a chance to discuss reconsideration by her town council. See, we have been advised back in March of 2022 by our previous contact there that their sister city organization had folded. Our committee here would hope that we would be able to reestablish our 45-year sister city relationship with Kettering, England. Of course, for the last 3 to 5 years, there has been no relationship. Therefore, our committee voted last night to have me request removing this item from the agenda tonight until we're able to work some things out with Kettering, England. So therefore, I would like to move to amend the agenda by removing item number 12, the resolution regarding the Sister City link.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Klepaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Yes. Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. Okay. We will now move on to proclamations, special presentations. Oh, I'm sorry, we skipped over the minutes. Mrs. Fisher, will you make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 10th, 2023 council meeting and workshop minutes?
Sure, ma'am. I have reviewed both the workshop and minutes from the January 10th meeting, and I find they're in order, and I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any questions? See none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. Okay, we will now move on to proclamations and special presentations. We do have a presentation this evening from the Greater Dayton RTA. They will be giving an update with Brandon Polachiclo. Oh, I left the I out. Brandon is the customer, and I cheated. I used your first name twice, but the Customer and Business Development Officer. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we look forward to your presentation.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, thank you for having me. My name is Brandon Palchicchio. I'm the Chief Customer and Business Development Officer for the Greater Dayton RTA, and I'm here tonight to provide a brief update on what the happenings are at RTA. I first wanted to share, and I'm sure you all saw when you came in, that first slide there showing the Kettering bus. We're very proud of the community bus series that's going on throughout Montgomery County. And the City of Kettering bus, I'm happy to report, will be running for the life of this bus here, which will probably be somewhere around 2028. So we're looking forward to having that bus running throughout the streets of Montgomery County. RTA currently, over 500 employees work for the authority. Over 65% of our customers are traveling to jobs, healthcare, and educational opportunities. And I always use this time as a plug. We are looking for over 100 drivers at the moment. So if you know anybody, we provide paid training for CDL. We are definitely looking for drivers. This year, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary. For those of you that have been in Montgomery County for longer than 50 years, you know RTA has been on the streets for that period of time and more. This is the 50th anniversary of the Greater Dayton RTA, and we'll be having events throughout the year for our customers in the community throughout 2023. Over the past several years, we've implemented our new system, TapPay. TapPay is a new system that had ended our traditional payment system. And the reason why TapPay has been great for our customers is it provides a more equitable way to pay. Our traditional system ended up leading towards customers spending more money who may have been low income, unbanked, or underbanked. What TapPay does is allow our customers who are least able to afford to never pay more than the daily max rate as well as the monthly max rate, allowing customers to hold on to their money longer and be able to have that savings. In addition, it's allowed us to have family accounts, so customers and their family members can be managed under one account. Our system is also available through multiple retail outlets where customers can take money and load that onto their TapPay card or to their smartphones. And later this year, we'll be implementing contactless payments so customers can use their contactless debit or credit cards and have their payments capped as well on a daily and monthly basis. RTA is currently running 18 bus routes throughout the Montgomery County and parts of Western Greene County. We have over 2,500 bus stops. We offer 3 Connect programs, which I'll share about in a minute. And here recently, we introduced same-day service 7 days a week, meaning no matter what day you travel, the same service is going to be out on the street, whether it's a Monday or a Saturday or a Sunday. Our Connect programs provide different options depending on areas or your transportation needs. Our on-demand program is available in 4 areas throughout Montgomery County. Currently, on-demand is not a program that's offered in the Kettering area, but that is because there is a lot of bus service in the city of Kettering. This program is in areas where we may have had not a lot of bus service or no bus service at all, and what this program does is allow customers to connect to our bus route service. Over 70% of these customers are traveling in these on-demand zones to connect to bus route services. Customers either use an Uber or Lyft app or contact RTA, and they're able to access this on-demand service. It's currently free, and it's open to the general public. We have our paratransit service, previously known as Project Mobility. That is a service where customers become eligible either because they have a physical or a cognitive disability that prevents them from using our bus route services. That service is available countywide to those eligible customers. And finally, we have our 5310 program, which we introduced in 2022. This program allows any customer, any resident within the Montgomery County area that is 65 and older who has a disability, transportation to and from doctor's appointments, to and from the grocery store, to and from the pharmacy for $5 per trip, and currently they can bring another person with them at no charge. This has allowed us to have 100% access to anyone within Montgomery County who may be 65 or older who has a disability. Currently, we are running the following services in Kettering. We have our Route 6, which was formerly known as the Route 14, Route 7, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, and the Route 55, which is a limited Saturday service that runs for 6 hours. That is currently sponsored by the University of Dayton, and that route runs from the University of Dayton campus area to the Walmart in Moraine and is currently offered on Sundays when school is in session. Here in the near future, Monday, actually, we'll be releasing to the public our transit system redesign. This program actually had started and the plan had begun in 2018. But of course, like many things happen, things change because of the pandemic, and we are going back out to the public to get feedback on our new redesign to address some of those changes that happened as a result of the pandemic, as well as understanding economic development, as well as residential development in communities such as Kettering and throughout Montgomery County to get feedback on what we're proposing to provide a more broader system. Primarily, one of the main features of the new system will be allowing customers to travel not through downtown all the time when they need to transfer routes, but more within their communities through an advanced connector service. And with that, that's the update that I have for you this evening.
Thank you very much. Council had a chance to sort of preview your report and with more expansions, and we are really, really excited, I think, to a person, and we're looking forward to sharing this with the rest of the community and some really, really great things to come in the very near future. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Brandon? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. We have no public hearings this evening. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on any public comment on any of the legislation that is before us this evening? Anyone wishing to speak before council with comments or new information about the legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speaker must state their name and address. Comments should be addressed to council. If you have comments that are not about the legislation on tonight's agenda, there will be an opportunity for those to be heard later in the meeting. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we will move along. We have ordinances in second reading, and there are no ordinances in second reading. I will now call on Mrs. Fisher to introduce legislation.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the removal and replacement of concrete throughout the Lincoln Park and Civic Commons. The estimated costs and budget are $30,000. It is requested by Parks, Rec, and Cultural Arts Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason, would you like
Yes,
to
Your Honor,
explain that?
thank you. This project consists of removing sections of concrete and replacing it due to deterioration and upheaving as we try to keep our iconic Lincoln Park and Civic Commons safe and accessible to everyone.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Greason? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the renovation of playground surfacing. The estimated cost is $150,000. That is the amount budgeted. It's requested by Parks, Recreation, and Culture Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason.
Thank you, Your Honor. In 2023, Kennedy Park Playground and Oak Creek Playground are planned for complete surfacing replacement. And so approving this resolution tonight will allow us to move forward with that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the restoration of benches located at Pollen Farm. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Greason.
Your Honor and members of council, the project scope for this project includes sandblasting and recoating the benches at Pollen Farm.
Okay, any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the restoration and resurfacing of sport court surfacing at various parks in Kettering. Estimated cost is $110,000. That is the amount budgeted and is requested by Parks and Recreation. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason.
Okay, I think we need to go back at some juncture and do number 4, but
I thought so too.
My error.
Yeah, we'll go ahead with it and we'll come
Okay.
back.
for the 5th resolution, as Councilmember Scott referenced, it includes the restoration and resurfacing of sport courts at various park. And so this is going to include cleaning, crack repair, equipment replacement, repainting of court lines, which increases their playability, and resurfacing. Specifically in 2023, court repairs are planned for Ernst Park and Winsler Park.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Klepass,
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes. We will move back up to item 4, and I believe Ms. Duval has that.
I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the repair and replacement of pavers, retaining walls, and related appurtenances at Poland Farm. The estimated cost is $70,000, which is the amount budgeted. This is requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Greason?
Yes, Your Honor. This project consists of repairing and replacing the paver patio, which is within the event venue hardscape, which you're familiar with. Also, there'll be repair and restoration of the exterior retaining wall that supports the event patio. Trying to keep Poland Farms looking great.
Great. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Klepass,
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes. Mrs. Fisher? Yeah.
I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the maintenance, removal, and replacement of the trees on city-owned properties. The estimated cost and budget are both $160,000, and it is requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason?
Yes, Your Honor. This request includes removing and replacing trees throughout parks, city-owned lots, and median locations. Additionally, it'll fund the purchase and planting of trees as part of the Citizen Tree Program. The program will include pruning and maintenance associated with trees throughout our parks, our city-owned lots, and our median locations, as I referenced earlier.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Klepass,
Yes.
Mrs. Hall, Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for repair, cleaning, roofing, and painting of various park amenities and structures. The estimated cost is $30,000. That is the amount budgeted. It's requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason?
Yes, Your Honor. Like many of the previous items, it's a priority of ours to have very well-maintained parks that are heavily used by our public. This project consists of minor carpentry repair, cleaning and painting of park shelters, decking, hardscape structures, fountains, play equipment, and amenities at various parks throughout our system.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Klepass.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Duval.
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Jill.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the replacement of a rooftop HVAC unit at the Fraze Pavilion. The estimated cost is $35,000. The budgeted cost is $35,000, and this is being requested by the Public Service Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Greason?
Yes, Your Honor. This $35,000 project would replace the existing rooftop unit at the Fraze Pavilion. The existing unit is beyond its useful life expectancy. The unit will include updated unit controls that'll help enhance comfort within the space for the contracted acts and staff.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution in the proper sequence this time, authorizing acceptance of a donation from Kettering Parks Foundation for ADA-compliant furniture at the Adventure Reef Water Park. The estimated cost is $7,000. There's no amount budgeted and is requested by Parks and Recreation. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Greason.
Yes, Your Honor, and members of council, the Kettering Parks Foundation received a grant for $7,000 from the Community Foundation for Kettering to purchase ADA furniture for Adventure Reef Water Park. The Parks Foundation will donate the funds to the city to be used for this purpose. Accessibility is a priority in our facilities and in our parks, and just to give you a little more specificity, this will include 3 tables with attached benches on 3 sides, with one side open, allowing wheelchair access, and 20 what are called upright deck chairs that are accessible.
Great. Okay. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiating quotes to contract for property maintenance of various city-owned properties. Estimated cost is $60,000, which is the amount budgeted. This is being requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any report from Mr. Greason?
This is just, Your Honor, general property maintenance assistance for a number of properties that are city-owned and currently the responsibility of the Parks Division to maintain, and this helps them with that effort.
Okay, great. Any questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use sealed bids or competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the renovations to relocate the Senior Services Office to the Kettering Government Center. The renovations are going to cost $73,787, with the furnishings being $15,000, with a total amount of $88,787, and that is the amount that we do have budgeted. It is requested by the city manager's office, and I do move for approval.
Second.
Okay. This one is going to go to Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will allow the city to enter into one or more contracts for office renovations and the purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment for the relocation of the Senior Services Office, which is currently located within Town and Country Shopping Center in the Kettering Connection, to space within our Planning Development Department here at the Kettering Government Center building on Shrover Road. Our lease expires with Town and Country on May 31st, 2023, so we would like to begin construction on the new office space here in the near future. The proposed project will renovate an existing office that we have here at the Government Center for the new Senior Services Coordinator, and will construct some additional office space for our CDBG program staff. It's our intention that this new office location will create a centrally located office here on the Government Center campus for residents seeking support and connections to community services for seniors and residents of all ages. And I would like to also note that the city is planning to use community development block grant funds, CDBG funds, to fund the office renovations. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I would just like to make a comment on this one. Senior services programs are one of the gems of this community. And I'm sure that there's going to be an adjustment period as people get used to seeking services at a different location. And I just want to assure everyone that we will do everything we possibly can to make that transition a smooth one, to actually enhance the services that we're able to provide for you this time. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to contract with TR Gear Landscaping LLC for bush hog landscape maintenance services at Miami Valley Research Park. The estimated cost is $32,837. That is the amount budgeted. It's requested by the city manager's office. I move for its approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. As mentioned, this resolution will authorize the city to contract with TR Gear Landscaping for bush hog services, landscape services within the city-owned property within Miami Valley Research Park. This is a monthly service that occurs during the growing season. We anticipate it to occur once a month for 7 months. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Mayor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for the installation of 7-unit heaters in the attic space of Fire Station 36 and Fire Headquarters. The amount budgeted for this is $50,000. That's also the amount that it costs, and it's requested by the Public Service Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the city to contract for the purchase and installation of heaters in the attic spaces within Station 36 and Fire Headquarters. The anticipated cost is approximately $50,000 to install these units. This station, Station 36 and Fire Headquarters, and also Station 32 were the first of our 4 new fire stations that were constructed. The design of the first 2 stations led to irrigation systems that we had in the attic that were prone to potential freezing. So the heaters have already been installed in Station 32 to eliminate this potential problem. This year we will be installing them in Station 36 to eliminate that potential problem as well. The other 2 stations, Station 34 and Station 37, were built later, and we changed the design of the station such that these heaters would not be needed for those 2. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. We have any questions? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes to contract for improvements to occupied spaces within building number 46. Estimated cost $303,000. That is the amount budgeted, requested by Public Service Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is another CIP project that we have for 2023 to spend approximately $300,000 to bring portions of the unfinished space within what we refer to as Building 46, what most residents would know as the Courts Building at the Kettering Business Park. This is, again, areas of unfinished space that we'd bring into code compliance by re-energizing the sprinkler system, adding a 1-hour rated firewall for air quality control, and to add an additional exterior egress door. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mayor Laner?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Kettering, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. Estimated cost is $7,000. Amount budgeted is 0, and this is requested by the Finance Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser, final one.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. This is a supplemental appropriation that we were requesting this evening for the $7,000 for the donation of from the Kettering Parks Foundation for the purchase of ADA-compliant furniture at the Adventure Reef Water Park, which was the subject of a previous resolution. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher? Mr. Kleipas?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. Okay, that will complete our resolutions for this evening. I'd like to read any ordinances in first reading, of which we have none. Certifications and petitions. Ms. Kaczynski, do we have any?
Your Honor, we did not have any certifications or petitions this evening.
Okay, thank you. I will then call on Matt Greason for the city manager's report.
Your Honor, I'm pleased to give our update. Our 2023 dog licenses are now on sale. If you're a new resident like me and need to get their dogs licensed, join me and make sure that you purchase by January 31st your dog license. Forms are available at area pet supply stores, some veterinarian offices, and certainly by contacting the Kettering Police Department, Shelley Davis, at 937-296-3266. Get your dog license by January 31st. Just information regarding a project in our community. There's a water line replacement at Dorothy Lane and Shrover Road. During the week of January 23rd, a water main will be replaced there, and it will impact traffic in a couple different ways. One is northbound and southbound through traffic on Shrover will be limited to turning right onto Dorothy Lane, and expect detour signs. Left turns from Dorothy Lane onto northbound and southbound Shrover will be closed, and you'll see detour signs posted there as well. Through traffic on Dorothy Lane will be reduced to one lane in both directions during the period of construction, and that is the week of January 23rd. These are important projects. We regret the inconvenience, but we think it's a valuable investment in our community's infrastructure. Just a reminder, if you are interested and you're a qualified low-income resident, we have grant opportunities for free HVAC upgrades to your residence, and we call that AQI, Air Quality Improvements Grant. Please call our Planning and Development Department if you're interested. Thank you, Your Honor.
Conclude your report? Okay, thank you. 2 weeks now? 3
Yes.
weeks now? Hope you're having a good time, because we're
Indeed
having
I
fun
am.
watching you.
Yep.
Okay, at this time, if you would like to come speak before City Council, please come down to the podium. Each speaker will have a 5-minute limit. Speakers are asked to state their name and address. Is there anyone who would like to speak before City Council? Not seeing anyone? We will move right along. We'll start our City Council reports with Mrs. Fisher.
Your Honor, I would say the highlight since our last council meeting was participating in Undesign the Red Line. I had the opportunity to meet a new resident to our community who moved from a very diverse community down in Florida, who lives in one of our white suburbs, is what she explained to me, and she happens to have biracial children. I was just so moved with our conversation, and I would say that was a part of the point of this particular exhibit, was to read the information and be able to sit down and talk with people about it. And it was just an incredible discussion. Her second grade son, I asked him what was his best part that he learned out of the exhibit, and he said, "Look in the mirror." Wow, look in the mirror. So I encourage every resident to do just that as it relates to our city and our community. That's what I have.
That's awesome.
I want to add a little bit to what Mrs. Fisher just said, and that is to thank Lisa. I know Lisa did a lot of work on that, along with the Board of Community Relations, and also the collaboration with the Kettering City Schools, because the event was held in the new auditorium at the Kettering City Schools, and it was the night I was there. It was well attended by the faculty and also folks from city and from staff. So it was a great job, great event for us to kind of kick off the Martin Luther King weekend. So On that same evening, I left over, and I had been invited, and I attended as a representative of the city, I'm sure, the investiture of Caroline Gentry as a U.S. magistrate judge, although she's been performing the task for a while. But because of the conflicts with COVID and other related things, they didn't hold the event until January 12th. But I'm sure that just about every judge in the Southern District of Ohio was there. It was really a massively attended event out at the Air Force Museum. So I was really glad to have been able to attend that. Also, I want to mention that the Sister Cities Association of Kettering is planning a trip to Steyr, Austria, and some Bavarian countries and areas from June 23rd through July the 6th. That's coming up. We're taking reservations now. Ed Hatch is the representative for Sister Cities. You can get a hold of Ed at 937-298-6124. I'm sure everybody remember that. But hopefully, we're only going to have so many people that are going to go on that trip. So, and the reservations are filling up pretty quick. Next, I'd like to recognize a public servant who served the city of Kettering for 43 years. Eddie Hinkle passed away on January 1st of this year. Eddie was a skilled electrician for the city. The electricity that we need for the mayor's tree lighting and holiday at home festivals was largely due to Ed's mastery of the trade. So the whole city shares in his talents every year at those two major events. He was an exceptional electrician who loved people. I'm told he was always out talking with folks, and a lot of us have experienced that. He was dedicated to the residents of this city. Eddie's family remain in our thoughts and prayers. His wife, Kim, and daughter, Ashley, were his pride and joy. We're grateful for his service, and on behalf of council and staff, we wish them all well. Kind of another sad note to pass along is George Bayless Jr. passed away on January 17th. Most of us knew George and the significant contributions he made to making Kettering community a better place to live, work, and play. It's said in his obituary, which included so many things that he has done, but one thing I noticed in there is that he volunteered in all kind of organizations, but his passion was attending meetings. And I think that showed why. All these organizations, you had to have a passion. George was a graduate of Fairmont High School and Denison University. He had a multi-decade relationship with the Kettering Holiday at Home, and back in 2008, he was the Grand Marshal at the parade. He was elected to 4 terms on the Kettering School Board. Most recently, he was one of the City of Kettering's reps for the Miami Valley Communication Council. And he was on MVCC from 2001 to now. So he was still actively involved with this city. Our council and staff offer our condolences to his wife Charlene, his daughters Rebecca and Laura, as well as many grandchildren, family members, and friends. And lastly, Shop Kettering. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Klepaz. This is all.
I just first want to say what amazing news it is about the new RTA routes, and some of us have been advocating for that for quite a while, and want to really in particular recognize Steve Bergstresser and Janelle Carroll, who helped get that done, and Janelle pointed out the need for that Kettering connector, and I'm just so excited that that's going to happen and help the people who really need that transportation. Also want to mention that the city staff is planning for EcoFest in 2023, and although that is in September 16th is the date that it's on, the applications are being accepted now for vendors who will be at the event. the city is looking for educators who want to provide fun and family-oriented education that will center around helping the planet. This is going to be at Lincoln Park Commons. In the areas of interest for applicants is beekeepers, pollinator information, children's activities, bicycle information, renewable energy, wetland and river conservation, recycling, animal conservation, and gardening. So if you and your friends or organization are interested, please apply at playkettering.org. Also wanted to mention Kettering Rec Center's Kids Alone program, which is a training for kids I think between ages 10 and 12 or so, but maybe 9 and 11, for kids when they have to be alone. And with the shortage in childcare, that's an issue in some places, but it is an excellent program, and that's happening January 28th and February 4th between 12 and 2 at the Kettering Rec Center. It's a great program that teaches kids how to be safe when they're home alone. And also am thinking of George Bayless and his wife Charlene, who's an amazing volunteer for our community as well, and sending out thoughts and prayers for their family and the amazing service that he provided to the community. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Scott.
3 quick points. Number 1, I also had the privilege to attend the Red Line ceremony at the high school. And it is particularly interesting to me because as the spouse of a minority, my wife is full-blooded Puerto Rican, to see some of the things that it was multiple minorities back in the day that faced the, I'll call it the wrath of other members of society. And it just illustrates how far we've come since those days, but we still have a ways to go. But it was a very good exhibit, and it was kind of eye-opening in a couple of ways. I would also like to add my kudos to the staff at Kettering for the RTA expansion. That helps the citizens who need it the most. And lastly, and on a lighter note, as a 50-plus year suffering Bengals fan, I hope, like a lot of people this Sunday, they break through and get to the Super Bowl and finally win it in my lifetime.
I'm sure for you, they'll do it.
I have no doubt.
First, I want to thank everyone who attended the Undesign the Red Line exhibit. It was a great success. We had so many parents bring in their kids, and we had this wide-ranging group of people who came to see the exhibit, and we had so many good conversations about redlining and about what's going on in the community now, and it was wonderful. And I want to thank you all for being there. I especially want to thank the Dayton Realtors for their partnership, Kettering City Schools, and a special thank you to Mary Asbell, who did an amazing job helping us get the word out. Thank you very much for that. And as far as George Bayless goes, you guys covered everything I could think to say, but I will say this. Before Mr. Scott and I went to our first MVCC meeting, George's wife, Charlene, came to the council meeting, introduced herself, and told us that her husband would be on MVCC with us, and she wanted to make sure we took care of him during the meeting. He might need some help. So we got to that first meeting, and I assume this was your experience as well. He told us where to sit. He told us what to do. He told us who everyone was. He didn't need any help from anyone. He was wonderful, and it was an honor to serve that year with him. And our thoughts are with Charlene and his children. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was sad news about George, and George ran for city council back in 1998, and when he didn't win, he just had to find a meeting to go to, so he turned right around and applied for a position on the Board of Education, was there ever since, and I always enjoyed seeing him. When I was in Columbus, he would come up, and he had a few things to say about the state of education, and I always enjoyed it. And Charlene was just one of those people that would drop a note just on a regular basis. I would get a word of encouragement or a little advice sometimes from Charlene as well. So he was one of Kettering's really finest citizens and will be missed. A lot's been said about the undesign of the Red Line, and I just want to add to it. I mean, it was a classy program, and so valuable. I just hope that we can kind of repeat it, and some of that stuff works its way into the curriculums of our school on a regular basis. Awesome. I was privileged to go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors in Washington, D.C. for 4 days last week. I was one of 15 mayors from Ohio, which was actually, 15 was the highest number from any state in the country. So that was kind of cool. That was due to the Ohio Mayors Alliance, which is a coalition of cities that Kettering joined a few years back. Don Patterson was instrumental in getting it set up, and it's the mayors from the 30 largest cities in the state. And we're just really starting to get some things going, largely around education and civic learning. Is kind of on the table, and we're hoping to grow that. I think that's about it for tonight. I do want to mention that we expect a storm tonight, and we've heard everything from 3 to 6 inches. Hopefully it'll wait until we're all tucked into bed tonight. But if not, as you head home tonight, if the road seems slippery, drive carefully, be safe. Okay. Being no further business to come before City Council, our next regularly scheduled City Council meeting will be February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day, 2023, and this meeting is adjourned.